the minute that a user feels like they can't get to the next place that they want to go, they immediately leave the site.
Welcome to another episode of Cup of Joe. Today we have Mariam Ali, our manager of website fulfillment, joining us to talk about user experience. Welcome, Mariam.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Great. How you doing?
Good.
Good. So, Mariam, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what's new and exciting in the world of user experience for senior living?
Yeah. So, as we know, the digital marketing space, it's always changing, especially considering websites and how people use them. But recently we're finding that there is a way to actually customize a person's journey from the website. So for example, let's say you are 45, you're looking for your mom, you want to make sure it's a safe place, and that's your main concerns. You can actually change the content that comes up onto the website when they first come on there based on what they're looking for, compared to, let's say, if they're an older adult looking for themselves for independent living. The imagery that you'd pick, the content that they would first want to see would be different, and you can actually flip that to match the customer.
Very cool. So it's completely personalized to that user?
Yes, it's more personalized for the personas. So we wouldn't be able to customize it by the one person individually, but for the most part, the personas and the characteristics that person fits.
Very cool. So if I'm understanding correctly, if I fit a specific persona and you fit a specific persona and we're looking at the same website, we're right next to each other, I might see different information on that site than you would?
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what types of things are you able to personalize to?
So you can personalize like the location information that is showing up. You can personalize the imagery. So let's say if the person lives in Houston and they want to see kind of imagery of Houston, that can be the case. But let's say the other person lives in Florida and they want to see beaches, you can kind of flip that imagery to match their geographic location.
Oh, very cool. So basically you can have similar websites created for a whole bunch of different communities and then focus and have those variables flip based on where that user is located.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. Okay. Now you had mentioned a little bit about like the personality types of the user. So like if somebody's interested in, I don't know, religion, they'd have imagery focused towards them. And if somebody's interested in dining or hiking, imagery towards them.
Yeah,
can you do that type of thing as well?
Yeah, you can. So yeah, we can see kind of what maybe faith they are a part of, and if that community does offer that line of faith, then you can have that imagery kind of first pop up. And yeah, so.
Very cool. Now I know that you've been working very heavily with some of our partners in the space. What are some cool tools that you've seen that can support the user through that journey as well?
Yeah, so I think one of the cool people that we work with is Ingrain. Okay. So people really care about the floor plans, the units, what does it look like, and things like that. And they've made it so seamless in a way that you can see, do you want a 2-bedroom? Do you want a 1-bedroom? How many units do they have? Is it a big space? Is it a small space? And then you can customize that way. And I think that they've done a really good job. It's really seamless. There's no glitches. I personally like the way it looks. So
very cool. Now I've seen the Ingrain tool, and one thing that I really appreciate about the Ingrain tool specifically is the ability to take a look at pricing. When we were at Smash in October, we went to the transparency and pricing talk, and I won't name names, but they're very popular in the industry. She had mentioned that she saw an increase of 33% in her community when she started being transparent on pricing. So obviously that's a huge component of that. What other types of things can you see on this Ingrain tool?
You can link up your virtual tours. So they don't offer virtual tours, but you can have that added. Okay. You can see what units are actually available. So they'll mark ones that are already taken, and then there'll be the ones that you can actually either purchase, rent, or whatever the case is.
Very cool. So I can get a virtual tour through Threshold 360 or LCP or a company like that.
Yeah.
And then we can just basically link that through to Ingrain.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. What other cool tools are you seeing?
There is Money Gauge. Yeah. So that is a financial tool. So it helps your prospect understand whether or not they can actually afford to live in your community. I think this is a great tool to also weed out the people that really can't afford it. Unfortunately, you want qualified leads, and that actually helps it narrow down greatly.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that Money Gauge tool, they would take in specific information like whether or not you own your home, level of income,
how much your home was.
Okay, and then it would basically kind of guide that user saying, yeah, this person actually is financially qualified.
Yes.
Very cool. That's awesome. So I know one of the main things that we are kind of always looking at is how to ensure that these users are qualified. And one of the tools that we've heavily used over the years has been Rubrik. And obviously Rubrik is a fantastic assessment and we really appreciate that one. Do you think that there's a way that Rubrik, Ingrain, LCP or Threshold 360 and MoneyGauge, all those tools can be used the most effectively on the website?
Yeah, so I think because we work with these people a lot, we actually know the perfect placements to put them in. So for Rubrik, for example, if someone is looking at the assisted living page, the memory care page, even under the About Us, it's is it the right time for my loved one? Is it that kind of language, and putting it through there, it actually helps the user understand, oh, this is a tool that will help me understand whether or not this is the right time. Because as we know, people tend to not really know much about the senior living space until it's completely vital and they need to know so much information and gather that. So for Rubrik, that is where I would put it. For Ingrain, on the floor plans page, of course, and then MoneyGauge, I would also probably put it throughout this as a living page. Actually, MoneyGauge, I'd put it throughout the website, so on the homepage, a little bit lower down, and just kind of throughout the site so that people actually use the tools that you use, that you have.
It's very cool. One of the things that Rubrik is constantly talking about is know your audience, or rather the hidden audience. And I think a lot of these tools support that user in trying to get that information. What other tools, if there are any, are you seeing that you're really excited about?
Other tools.
I know that there's some chat functionalities like Further. And Site Staff,
LifeLoop.
LifeLoop.
LifeLoop. I think LifeLoop greatly helps the executive directors at the communities, because then you only have to update your calendar one time and it goes through any, like if it's on your site, you don't have to update your site again. So it takes out that kind of manual labor.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I also know that
you're talking about activity calendars?
Yeah, activity calendars. They have activity calendars. They also have like surveys and what is it called? Like quizzes and like fun activities for the people in the communities to actually use, so the residents can stay engaged in the communities. And then you can actually track whether or not your residents are using it, not how often do they come to those events, and kind of like the pattern in that.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. A lot of these chat functionalities, to bring it back to Further and Site Staff, are getting like more AI focused.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on using AI to support these chat functionalities?
I think that using AI is probably the smart thing to do.
Okay.
I know a lot of people see AI as a little bit of a scary thing, but I see it as a tool that can help us further accomplish what we need to do. So kind of like the calculator, when the calculator was first introduced, everyone was like, oh my God, like that's gonna take away all that manual things that we did, and shouldn't humans do it? But in reality, we use calculators to help us, and I see the same way as AI. And using AI, you can slowly get the AI to do what you want to do and how you want it to respond. And honestly, most people don't really know that they're talking to AI.
Yeah, fair enough. Very cool. So let's go back to user experience, because we're talking about all these tools that people can utilize for user experience. What are things that you're doing right now in your websites outside of the tools to really help the user get through the site and get to the information they're looking for?
Yeah, so I think the number one important thing is that your navigation is clear, concise, and is what people want to look for. So I've in the past seen either navs that were too much information, too much clutter, or too small, too little, that it doesn't guide the user through the experience.
Sure.
So for us at Citizen, what we do is people typically read from left to right, and we want their journey to go from left to right. So we want you first to think about the community, the About Us, then what kind of lifestyle do you need or your parent needs, slowly the floor plans, the gallery, and then you're slowly moving them towards the book of tours. So kind of going through that function, and we ensure that all of the headings are clear, concise, they know what they're looking for, and then the drop downs follow along. The navigation bar also should follow you as you're going through the page. Sometimes people only need to read 2 paragraphs to know that they want to book a tour, and you should be able to accessibly find that. The minute that a user feels like they can't get to the next place that they want to go, they immediately leave the site. People are kind of fickle like that, so those are some things that we do. Other things that we do is the way that people read sites, they don't like too much words. So we always ensure that it's concise, it speaks to the user, it's empathetic but authoritative at the same time, because people are looking to you as a tool. They want to see you as a resource, but coupling that with imagery, ensuring that maybe it's in accordions. People kind of read, they skim through, and if it's a block of huge text, again, they'll just leave your site.
Yeah, fair enough. Very cool. So I just wanted to ask one last question here. What right now do you feel like our users really need to take away from understanding the user experience?
I think people do need to understand the generation that they're speaking to right now as the child influencer. So currently the child influencer are very hesitant and wary of talking to salespeople right away. They really want to see your website as a tool or resource and research up on it by themselves. Like I said, they tend to want to understand, what is memory care? What is assisted living? What is independent living? What does my mom need? What does my dad need? They want those questions and answered to themselves before actually talking to a salesperson.
Sure.
So I think that people need to understand that change. Boomers were the opposite. They tend to trust the salesperson. They just want to get on a call, whereas the newer generation of child influencers are not like that. So I think that's like really important to keep in mind.
So it sounds like what you're saying is stop gating the information. Give these people the information that they need, because they're going to do the research. And if you're not giving them the information, your competitor will, and then they will generally move away.
Yeah, 100%.
Fair. Awesome. Miriam, thank you so much for taking the time with
you.
me. And for all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free to browse all the different videos that we have for Cup of Joe. If you have any questions, fill out a form on our website, and we hope to chat with you soon. Thank you so much.